stopped in midair and did a U-turn and went right back where it came from. I'm like, my goodness, I wish I had a camera on this so I could show people, because that is something that people really won't believe, but I saw it with my own eyes. The importance of prayer of protection is very, very important before you go to these cases.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And now, we've had cases, and Teresa can vouch for this as well. We've had times to when, and we kind of contributed this to the case. Maybe we were being warned or something, but something would happen to one of us, whether it be something in the physical house or somewhere, somebody or something would say something, and it would end up something that pertained to the case.
Yeah.
So, and I can't say that, that it's not demonic, but we never ran into anything on that particular case that acted demonic or anything like that. In fact, we got very, very little information or data, if you will, from the case.
Well, I'm glad I'm glad you said that. Usually, a lot of the times when you go to a demonic case, you will get no evidence. And the reason why is, look at it from the other perspective. If you are an enemy coming into somebody's property to take it over, or coming into somebody's house to take it over, and if they bring in someone to help, well, if I pretend like I'm not there, then they're going to think that nothing is there, and then they're going to turn around and leave. So, I know this. Whenever I get cases and they say, well, we brought in these paranormal teams and they got no evidence like whatsoever, which that always sparks me to question, could this really be something demonic? Because I know firsthand, without a shadow of a doubt, whenever 90% of demonic, I will go on a limb to say about 90% of demonic cases are overlooked. It's because there is no evidence to get. So they will pretend like they're not there. So the people that come to help will think, okay, there's nothing there. These people are crazy. On to the next. And that's why prying a little bit more pays off in the long run. I have certain things that I like to do. I am not. I don't claim to have abilities or nothing like that, but I have over the years developed this what I would call a discernment. And when I go to a house, the first thing I want to do, I just want to walk the house. I just want to walk it by myself. Just kind of get my impressions. Because I've learned with me, if I go with my gut, my gut feeling has never led me astray. So I like to walk the house, and then after that, after I get my impressions, because I know how my body reacts to certain things. And after I walk the house, I will sit down and do the interview session with the client, and go from there. But you are right, 100%. There's a lot of demonic cases that is overlooked because of lack of evidence. That's why with us demonologists, you have to be trained in something called religious provocation. If you have to gather evidence to bring in the right authorities, you have to be able to make these entities react and produce something. So that's why in a lot of possession cases, sometimes religious provocation is needed, so it'll manifest to a point to where it'll give you some kind of evidence. But I don't like doing religious provocation unless I really have to, under last-ditch efforts. That's the only time one should ever do religious provocation. Religious provocation is dangerous. I've heard of many people getting hurt severely because of religious provocation. With religious provocation, whenever I've been trained and taught that if I ever have to do it, get the clients out of the house and then do it. Why? Because you want it to come after you and not the clients.
Right.
So when you enter in that scenario, you are the first line of defense. When I'm in the military, so I got to speak from the military thinking here now, because let's face it, it is war, so you got to think what is the best way to protect the client. And if I have to do religious provocation, I'm getting the people out of the house. I am in the name of in the name of Jesus, whatever this thing is, stays in the house. We do religious provocation, so I can spiritually make it mad to produce some kind of evidence. But after doing that, you gotta be prepared to take care of the problem then, because if you don't, you're gonna leave those people in a world of hurt. Let's put it that way.
Right. Yes. And I've tried to explain that to people that has we've talked about it, and especially my team. Each person in my team knows that I don't allow people to provocate and stuff like that. Well, first off, it's too dangerous.
Yeah.
Just as you were saying, and secondly, we may go in there and chastise something and it not do a thing until we leave.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it's going to make the client suffer.
Exactly.
And I mean, they'll even, I'm sure if it's demonic, then they'll make the client suffer just simply because they contacted us.
Mm-hmm. When you're dealing with the demonic, I've gotten to a point to where, I've only had to do religious provocation once in as many years that I've been doing demonology, and it was scary. I would be lying to say if I wasn't scared. When I got the people out of the house, it was just me and it. And I was thinking to myself, my goodness, do I really want to do this? I don't want to, but I have to. And it only took 5 minutes, and I got what I wanted. I'm like, okay, thank you. So we got out of the house, and this was just an infestation case. We got out of the house, and then we went back in, and we did our thing to rid the property of this entity. But when I started to do this religious provocation, the only time I ever had to do it, I was scared to death. But sometimes when you have that fear, yes, you can have some fear. It's healthy to have a little bit of fear. Why? Because you come to a point to where you have to, this sounds weird, you have to respect its power. Because if you don't, then you will start to become prideful, and then that's when you start to fall. So you have to come to a point to where you have no pride. Your pride is out the window, and you have to do this from a respect factor, because we all know that these things are supernatural beings, and that I know what they can do. But you have to come to that realization to where you got to have some kind of respect. So yeah, it's like a fine line, and once you step over that line, you're putting yourself in danger, and then this thing is going to come after you.
Right. Now I've got a couple of things in the chat room we're going to get to in just a minute. I wanted, if you don't respect this power, if you will, then you put yourself in grave danger, because if you it goes back to that, if you underestimate your enemy, what's going to happen? He's going to defeat you.
That's right.
And so having a respect for his power only enriches you to be able to control the situation, because you have that respect.
That's right.
And,
that's right.
Michael Golston in the chat room, I wanted to read a couple of things that him and his wife Leah were talking about, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Michael says, we were talking about, let me go back up so I can make sure that I bring the right thing. We were talking about the provocation and things like that. Michael says that's already a stigma.
Yes, it is.
That this field has. People going into clients' homes, stirring up stuff, and then leaving them to deal with it.
I agree.
For the sake of evidence.
I agree with him 1,000%. I, throughout my years of doing this, only had to do it once, and I hope I never have to do it again. But you see these people nowadays on TV getting in there talking trash to the spirits, trying to stir stuff up, just like this Zach Bagans mess. Oh my goodness.
Right.
He's a troublemaker. Spiritually and in the physical world, he's a troublemaker. Now, but you see these people go in and think they're all Billy Bad Butt, because they're on TV, and then they start talking trash to the spirits, and they don't even know what they're dealing with yet. But regardless, this religious provocation mess can get people hurt and killed. If you go into a situation and you have to use religious provocation, you must, and I have to say this, you must be prepared to handle it and go head to head. And then after that, you must be knowledgeable enough and prepared to help the clients even after the case is done. You have to show them and guide them on now what you need to do to counteract what we did, because after you do the religious provocation, you have to be able and be willing to go head to head and rid them of this demonic entity. But also you have to be able to teach the clients after case care. You have to be able to tell them what they need to do now to counteract the actions, because let's face it, these things are going to try to come back. These things will start as something small, and then if you let it stay, if you overlook the small stuff, you're going to say, oh, whatever. And then spiritually, if you don't do something then, take your authority and kick that sucker out, then it's going to come back 10 times worse. And that is what I'm seeing that is happening with all these what I call mainstream so-called demonologists and paranormal investigators. Is that they'll come in and claim that they can help, but afterwards the clients are left in 10 times worse shape than they were found.
Right. And then that's when groups like